This is Jane Talbot, and today I'm going to speak to someone I have never met live before, but have been connected to via Facebook. This weekend I had an experience with a tree. I attempted to feel the energy of a tree through deep listening. And after that experience, I had an instinct or an impulse to find out more. And this person whom I'm about to introduce came straight to mind. So now I'd like to say a big hello to Jackie Stewart. Hello, Jackie.
Hi, Jane.
And where are you, Jackie? I forgot to ask where you actually are.
Oh, I'm physically in Hebden Bridge in West Yorkshire.
Okay, well, this is my first connection with Hebden Bridge. I've heard it's a beautiful place, and I've actually seen from some of your pictures how beautiful it is. And you are a soul alchemist. What is a soul alchemist?
Essentially, it means I use the healing power of nature to help people get in touch with and transform emotions so that they can be more connected to their soul self and make their dreams come true, transform their relationships, do whatever they need to do to bring things into balance. And we use flower and crystal essences and meditation, and I teach workshops and teach people how to connect more with nature, more with the energies of nature, and how that can help bring more balance into their lives.
Wow, so this is sounding really interesting to me. So in a nutshell, if we relearn our ability to connect with nature, that in turn connects us to the essence of who we really are, and when that happens, anything is possible. Did I get that right?
Absolutely, I couldn't have put it any better.
Yeah. So I am following an impulse trail for my adventures, and I'm not really sure consciously or rationally why I choose what I choose, but often when I speak to people like you after an experience, it becomes clear why something like this might be interesting to me. So I know that you watched my video of my tree feeling experience, and I know that one of the things you do is help people connect to the spirit of a plant or a tree. So what are the benefits? So you talk about connecting to my true essence or my soul. So let's back up a little bit. How, in the first place, can I connect to the spirit of a tree? I mean, what is a tree spirit?
Yeah, well, I think watching your video, which was really interesting to watch, was lovely because you did lots of the things that I would recommend and that I would teach in workshops. So you were very conscious that you were going to connect through your heart, and that's really important because when we meet nature, we have to connect through our heart. We don't receive information from nature in the way that we would from speaking to people.
Right.
And I think when I first started getting interested in connecting with plants, I expected that I would show up next to a tree and there would be this loud, booming, sort of biblical voice that would tell me the message.
No, Jackie, that's exactly what I thought. When I sat down, I thought, I think if I can feel, come on, speak.
Yeah, or you expect to see this kind of, this fairy-like being appearing in a flash of light, and then it doesn't happen. You think, oh, I've got it wrong, and it's not working, and all that stuff. And actually, that's because we're trying to do it very mentally, and actually what we need to do is to suspend that idea of how the communication is going to be and open up to all our senses and a wholehearted way of communicating. And that was exactly what you did. And one of the other things that I recommend to people is if you have a willingness to connect with a plant, it's really important to choose one that you already feel some connection with. Yes. So you connected with the ash tree that it had already been calling you, it had already been reaching out to you in the way that a person might. So it's like when we're trying to get to know a person, it's so much easier to be ourselves if it's somebody that we feel comfortable with. And it's so much easier for the other person to communicate with us if they feel comfortable with us. So that's a really important step if you're curious about connecting with plants. Choose something you already feel a connection, a heart connection with, a sense of love or appreciation. You might have noticed how beautiful it is. So that then takes you into your heart.
So why is it possible, or how is it possible that a particular thing would call out to me or anybody else?
I think it's a resonance of energy. I think, well, I suppose what I've observed really with the work that I've been doing with flower essences for the last 15 years or so is that something that always happens is that anytime somebody tells me about a plant they've been drawn to and then they Google it to find out what the flower essence is about, it's always exactly what they need at that time.
Right.
So there's this communication that bypasses our minds. We have this heart, body, feeling, sense connection with nature that isn't necessarily something that we've stored up here, but we're feeling it. So you have a particular vibration, and at any time that vibration is changing and it will be coming in and out of balance, and it might be you're stepping up a level in your business and you get a kind of crisis of confidence, and there will be particular plants that can meet that crisis because they're meant about confidence. So you will, without consciously thinking, oh, I need something for confidence, you will feel more drawn to a plant that embodies confidence because you're naturally bringing yourself into balance. We have this wisdom, we know what we need for balance on a really deep level. We might not know it in our heads, but we know what we need, so we feel drawn to what we are missing.
Okay, so let's just recap then. So part of the way of connecting is to drop the expectation it's going to be a verbal communication.
Yeah,
they'll be speaking, if you like, their own language, which is the language, I'd call it the unconscious language, feelings, impressions, that kind of thing. And to make that heart connection, to be open to receiving and to work with people you already know. So you know that you've got that connection and there's a purpose in that connection, and unconsciously or it becomes consciously clear to us through that attraction that there is something that we need from that relationship with that living thing.
Yeah, so then there's an exchange that can happen. And that's
an exchange.
That will be the most beneficial exchange for you. So if you're going out and you particularly want to connect with a plant, the one that you feel drawn to has beneficial medicine for you. So that's the most, if we're looking at it very practically, in terms of what nature can give us and why it's worth doing and why you would want to spend time doing that, there's something there for you that brings you into greater balance.
So would you know what ash would give?
I don't know ash, actually. It's not an essence that I work with.
Yeah.
And I think that the thing that's really interesting and useful is that all of us who connect with plants get certain messages, and I think it's really tempting to go straight onto Google and think, oh, what's that for? And that's helpful. But it's actually much more meaningful if you develop your own relationship, because as well as the universal messages that a plant has, there will be individual medicine for you. And I think that everybody who connects will get a little bit of something. It's like when we connect with people,
different facets.
Yeah, absolutely, and different friends bring out different aspects of your personality. So we can see, I might see something different in my connection with ash to what you would experience, because we both have our own psychology and our own, individuality. And then you build up a picture of what it means for you. And I encourage people, if we're connecting the plant on an essence making workshop, for instance, you are preferably barefoot, because that makes it so much easier to connect. And if you look at indigenous people who are very connected in, shamanic traditions and different cultures, they're all barefoot, and really you could map the time at which we started to wear shoes is when we started to get really disconnected from nature. So whip your shoes up, feel your feet on the earth, get really calm, relaxed, focused on your breath, feel your breath moving through your heart, and just really surrender and move into that slow pace, because trees are so ancient and have so much to them that we're not going to get fast instant answers. They're very ancient beings, so we have to slow down to their pace and really kind of enter into that place of resonance with them, where like our fast busy head vibration becomes much more attuned to theirs, and then it becomes easier to...
So what you're describing to me sounds like we become a dowsing rod. We're using our body as a dowsing rod, a way of scanning the natural environment and becoming aware of where the greatest resonance is and following that call, knowing then that there is something, you called it in this exchange, in terms of healing, or so it can give healing, but what else can it give?
Healing, knowledge, insight. I mean, really, with any plant that you connect with, you're opening up that heart space and breathing through your heart, and then just seeing how the impressions come to you. And I think it's really important to realize that it isn't necessarily going to be the booming voice or the vision, but that knowledge will come to you in other ways. So it might be that you would feel sensations in your body. So it's really opening up and feeling any sensations or movement, or you could close your eyes and you might feel a particular part of your body, and then you're just curious and you just explore it and you just follow. In the way that you're doing with this adventure, you're just following the threads that feel good and have some sort of energy about them. So you might be sitting next to the ash tree and just kind of seeing what part of your body it feels like there's a connection, and then you can just ask questions. You can ask the ash tree if it has any information that it can give you. Because you felt very drawn to a particular plant, you can take to it anything that you're grappling with in your life that feels like it's stuck or complicated. Ask if it's got any guidance, and then you might get old memories surfacing. You might be reminded of something. You might see an image in your inner eye, like a sort of a symbolic image or something playing out, or you might think of somebody you haven't thought of in years and there was maybe an issue there and you think, oh, okay, that was about that, and that sheds light on this bit in my life now. So it's just really opening up to all the ways in which that information can come.
So, from my line of work, what this is sounding like is almost sounding like a self-hypnosis. You're in an altered state and you're accessing the part of you that knows how to connect with what you would call maybe your soul self, and knows how to connect to all other things as well. So when we're in our heads, that line of communication is cut off. And when we have this open channel between our conscious mind, our unconscious mind, and some people also say our higher conscious mind, then that information flows freely. And I think what's lovely about being in nature is that nature automatically causes us to go into the alpha state, into peripheral vision, so that those connections are more easily made. And certainly sitting by the ash tree, you can see actually on the video how slow and relaxed I become, and it was much easier, much quicker to alter my state than it would be if I was sitting in my front room or sitting in an urban type of space. And so now listening to what you said, so I had its point of resonance, like if it had a connection spot to me, would have been around between my shoulder blades. That's where I felt it the most. Low, it was very low and slow and grounding, like it was pulling me down. And you could say, now if I wanted to make a useful association to me, that is part of me. The issue I have been grappling with over the last 3 years is I've moved to a foreign country, and I've moved around a lot. I'm nearly 50, and the longest I've ever lived anywhere is in Scotland for 12 years. And I had my son there, and I think you naturally put roots down. And so I'm using tree metaphor already. Not only put roots down, and I haven't put roots down here. And you could say that the natural association is that, I want to put roots down, I need to put roots down, I want to feel that sense of home and belonging and connection to the place in which I live. And at that moment, sitting next to the tree, I was rooting. I was becoming rooted. And that's a useful message I would take from that experience now in hindsight.
Yeah, well, that sounds great. And when you think now about this new home, do you feel any more grounded since that experience? Do you feel more connected?
I do. I mean, I'm not actually living in that place because the farmhouse is uninhabitable. So that's something that needs fixing up. But I can regularly visit that place. And I suppose having camped there, I've camped there before. I got actually married at a hand fasting in a field which had the same tree in it. So I do feel that connection, and it's like a physical connection rather than all of me being connected, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like my head's somewhere else, my body can be there, my body feels connected to there, and I think my task is for all of me, all of me to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're working with flower essences, and so your essence, that can come from anywhere, so people can be pulled by anything from nature, anything that's alive, is that right?
Absolutely, and I think a really good thing for us to remember is that local medicine is the best medicine, in the same way that local food that's just been picked and it's grown in your local environment, and local honey, local veggies, local fruit, all what's best to nourish our cells. And local plant spirit medicine is the most effective in healing because it's most resonant to you. So I really encourage people to connect with the plants in their own neighbourhood and to make essences from their own native plants. And that's that's another way of creating really sustainable communities instead of shipping in essences from abroad. So everybody, no matter where you live, you have this amazing realm of healing and balancing remedies that you can access. I think that the thing that I would want to share with people is that connecting with nature in this way, it might not be an instant download of information that you might be expecting, but it's about developing a relationship. And it sounds like what you've described of the ash tree, there's already a relationship and you had your hand fasting nearby. And when you move there, you will develop that relationship further. And the more you get to know the ash tree, the more it will share with you. And the more you keep turning up in that just spirit of friendship, as you would with a friend, you get to know each other in your good days, your bad days, different times of year. You'll observe how the ash grows and how it copes with different situations. And it's developing that relationship so that every time you pass it, your heart is just open to the connection and the communication. And that's when you start to get the really rich information. And I think often people want to see something like a tree spirit because that seems, very visible. That will be kind of quite exciting. But seeing the spirit of something is about, it comes from developing relationships.
Okay, so now you're interested in me, so I'm actually leaning forward. I'll put my coffee cup down. And this is where you talk about helping people to connect with plant divas and plant spirits. What's the difference between a diva and a spirit? I feel like I don't think I could handle a plant diva.
Well, the plant divas, a diva is effectively something that holds the blueprint for the physical thing. So it's like with us, our etheric body holds the blueprint for our physical body, and our soul holds the blueprint for whatever we will unfold. So with plants, it's exactly the same. So there will be a deva for all ash trees that looks after the perfect unfolding of ash trees. But each individual ash tree will have its own deva that looks after its growth. So it's like an energy template and like cheering the tree on to be all it's meant to be in this lifetime. And when you connect with the deva of that plant, you are connecting with its higher consciousness, its higher self, like its soul presence.
Yeah. And so for me, having had my out-of-body experience and having had my animal communication experience, actually that makes more sense to me than actually just walking up to a tree and getting the physical experience from it. It's that outside all of this, we're all the same. That I would be communicating with that plant or tree on its own terms as an equal. And so what's the difference between a diva and a spirit?
I'm not really sure. It's different names. Some people refer to the dryad as the overlighting spirit. Certainly when I work with plants, the deva seems to be the strongest presence that I connect with, but there are also other spirits, and sometimes you'll get other nature spirits that hang out around that plant.
Right.
I would say that if you were wanting to connect, to have the conscious intention that you want to connect with the deva of the plant, that's it would be like having a session with somebody and holding the space that you want to connect with their higher self or their soul presence. So it's like the fullness of them, the kind of the huge potential. Yeah. So it's connecting in that way.
And what would be the purpose then? So I can see the healing purpose, the healing exchange that goes on between a human and nature. And as you're connecting or have an intention to connect with the diva or the spirit of the plant or living thing, is there a different outcome, a different purpose in making that connection?
It can vary. I mean, it can be just out of curiosity, like you'd want to get to know a person better and you just want to learn more about it. It can be for a healing intention. I mean, generally, when making flower essences, that's what you would be doing. You would be making a medicine of sorts, a soul medicine from that then you could use to treat people. But I mean, it's just fun. It's fun just to get to know your neighbours. You know, I play in the woods behind my house all the time, and I have a relationship with all the trees on some level, but 3 trees that I'm particularly close to, and sometimes I go and I ask them questions and I take a notepad and I write down their answers. One time I went and I thought I would go and tap the answers into my phone because I didn't have a notepad, and then I thought, oh, actually it feels like they want to talk aloud to me and I need to ask the questions out loud, and then I need to like verbally channel what they're saying. And I opened up my phone and there was an app on my phone, like an audio recording app that I hadn't downloaded, was open on my phone. So I was like, okay, so that's a bit easier. So I just then asked the questions and then waited for the words to form in my head of what seemed to be their answers. And sometimes you have to suspend disbelief a bit and you think, oh, this is madness, but you just kind of go with it until it starts to feel more natural. So you can get those messages either written or verbally, and it's just playing with the different ways you can receive the information. And it's kind of, I suppose, my big thing with connecting with plant spirits is that I really want it to be useful. I kind of don't want to waste their time or mine. I want to do something that's relevant. So I'm kind of asking them, you know, is there anything you need me to do? And it might be that I'll go into the woods one day and I'll ask that question, and I don't get the booming voice, so I think, okay, there's nothing. And then like 10 minutes later, I'll notice there's some litter and I'll feel just an impulse in my heart to pick up the litter. Okay, that's what I needed to do. So it's just going in and asking questions and just exploring it. And it's fun and it's enriching.
Yeah. And I can see also how it'd be very healing. So often when we have an emotional trauma, then we tend to close down. I do anyway. I would close down, I would cut myself off from the world. And actually, it's the act of cutting myself off from things like nature that prevents me from full healing. And I think what I like about your invitation to connect with plants and trees in this way is that you have to open yourself. You have to open yourself in the first place to go out. Then you have to open yourself to the connection for the healing, and before you know it, you are actually out in the world. You're not closed down anymore.
Yeah, that's a lovely way of putting it. That's a really nice way of describing it. Absolutely.
And can I ask you, have you ever, so I always do, if I'm doing something new, do a little bit of research beforehand, and I don't know about the quality of the information I find. You know, there's so much on the internet. But I'd watched a film about fairies, and they mentioned things like dryads and tree spirits and so on. And I had a conversation earlier this afternoon with someone who works with fairy energy, and they said that there's a whole range of energy, and that, you know, in terms of a tree spirit, for example, is the spirit of the tree always, and what's the word? I don't know if the word is beneficent. Is it always working for our good? Is it always friendly force?
I've never met.
We should be careful of.
I've never met an unfriendly tree, but some nature spirits are not very friendly. Like nature spirits is separate from tree spirits, so I've found that some are. Like there's different kind of realms of this kind of spirit, and they have a certain essence. So I've come across things like kind of really grumpy boggarts who've been misplaced, and they've got a kind of heavy clay-like energy is how I experience it. I've never yet found a tree spirit that wasn't benevolent and beneficent and friendly, but then I adore them. So like it's like if you turn up to meet somebody and you're just filled with love for them, they're going to be really nice to you because you're filled with love for them. So I guess if I was turning up with a chainsaw and I was about to cut one down, and that's kind of, I see that as part of our role of having these connections, is that we develop a relationship with our local nature, and then if things are happening, like trees are going to be cut down, we can warn them, we can communicate that to them. Because studies have shown that plants register a kind of an ill intention towards them. All the experiments that were done in the 60s showed that plants know. So as soon as someone's thinking of chopping down a tree, the tree has registered that on some level. So if we can go and just, you know, give them some healing, say, I know what's going on for you, all that sort of thing, it's just like friendship, really. I don't see it as much different from the friendships that I have with people.
Yeah. So have you got any top tips for me? So this weekend I'm going to go back to the ash tree, and the hawthorn has a very different energy for me, and I didn't find it particularly invitational, very powerful and very beautiful, but it didn't say, hey, come and sit by me. Whereas the ash tree was like, whoa, here, on you go. It was like no resistance at all. And so I'm going to respect the hawthorn, and some of that could be my head stuff about what I'd watched and so on and so forth. I want to go back to the ash tree and maybe experiment with the different energies of other trees as well. Have you got any tips for me then of some small things I can do to improve my connection?
Get your shoes off. Get your shoes off. Sit with the tree for about 10 minutes, just breathing through your heart, if you haven't already done that, just really feeling your breath in your heart. Suspend all expectations of how amazing it's going to be, because it might not be. Bring a notepad, bring some drawing paper, and just spend time with it. And I think we're used to fast results. We're used to kind of this fast food world that we live in, and that's not how nature speaks. Nature speaks slowly. So just give yourself time and spend a couple of hours with it. Just hang out, observe it, look at just look at the way it grows and what it might be telling you. Just the way it grows, is it very kind of sturdy? Is it quite bendy? And listen to it with all your senses. Check that it's not poisonous. I don't know if ash is, but taste it, feel it in your mouth, smell it, rub it on your skin, lie down next to it, put leaves on your eyes or lay them in your chakras. Just really explore it as a real sensory exploration of the tree. Because when we engage all our senses, we stop being in our head so much, and that just deepens up that heart connection. Just play and draw it, write about it, ask it questions and just see if any answers come. And always be very appreciative and come from that place of really appreciating it, and give thanks afterwards, and just really thank it for sort of initiating you into this world.
And I think, that one of the most important things you said there is this, like, letting go of expectation and going at nature's pace. And in all relationships, it's like when people have been out of a relationship and then they just leap in and they expect a marriage proposal immediately, and then it all starts going horribly wrong because they really didn't take the time to get to know each other. And I like this idea, well, really, you've got all the time in the world, because you think about how old those trees are and how much time they've got on their hands. They're not in a hurry. And I think that's another really healthy thing through spending time with nature, is that it forces you to slow down. But it doesn't feel like it's forcing you. It kind of, it's like a hammock, really. That's how I felt with the tree. So after a while, I didn't feel it. It was like a hammock, though. I was supported, but it was very gentle.
Yeah, and you remember how good it is to feel slow and at peace and relaxed, and we get comfortable then with not having our heads full of busy and not having to do things all the time, and that then relaxes our bodies, and then healing can happen more naturally. And
So Jackie, if people want to learn more about flower essences and connecting to nature, how can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, my website is flowerspirit.co.uk, and there's some information on there. I would say a wonderful book that I would recommend is The Secret Teachings of Plants by Stephen Harrod Buhner. It's beautiful. And I would say to people, research information, but trust your inner guidance and your inner instincts as well, and get outside as much as possible, and treat the relationship with nature like you would with any person that you'd want to meet. You wouldn't go rushing in. I wouldn't rush up to you at a party and say, Jane, I want to connect with your spirit, because you would just be like,
you'd be surprised how many people do that to me. Well, they tell me they already have and they didn't even ask me.
But rushing in, I've got 10 minutes, show me your spirit, show me what you're all about.
Give us a quick flash of your spirit.
So just treat it like any relationship, and just get to know the plants that are around you, get to know the ones that call you, and it takes time, but it comes, and then you get in the habit of it, and then it reaches the point where you'll go out and you'll just instantly know what a plant is for. You'll just recognize how it shares its information with you, and it just opens your eyes in a whole new way. And
this is the wonder of it all, I suppose, is that through these adventures with nature, and the adventure with my own nature as well, is that you don't have to go anywhere to see more of the world, because what I realise is that we only experience a very small part of it when our focus is narrow, and we are cut off from a whole range of experience, a whole dimension of experience, which has been there all the time, and which we did as a species know how to access, but have broken our connection with it. And I think finding this connection, suddenly the world becomes, the phrase that I've used recently is, there's nothing every day about the everyday. It's fabulous. It is. And when you really stop and look at things, for example, I did a tree identification adventure where I learnt to identify trees, and I realised that I had missed blossoming. I didn't know which trees blossomed or when they blossomed. That it was a kind of a blur. It was something that I was remembering. I wasn't actively present to what was going on in the trees around me in my own street, let alone the rest of the country. And the only thing that really stuck out is that cherry blossom, because it's kind of it's so in your face. Or some of the other stuff that's more subtle, the comings and the goings, and marking out the year through what's happening in nature. These are all things that I was completely separate from, and yet in connecting to that cycle, it makes you feel more alive, and it makes you feel more connected, not only to the trees, but to everything.
Absolutely, and it makes you more present, and we all much more present in the moments that we're in, and to experience something deeply and richly with all our senses. We are fully present when we do that.
And I think that's where our philosophies, our therapeutic philosophies overlap, because I think, when you are present and when you're in your body, you're present to everything. That's the emotions that you like, or the joy of connecting with nature, and all the emotions that you don't feel completely comfortable with. But being present and compassionate and allowing of that experience, that's the one thing that is going to accelerate your healing. And so this invitation to be with nature, which forces you, which encourages you, which facilitates deep presence, can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. Because ultimately it makes you more present with yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
And when you're present with yourself, you show up in your relationships with more presence, and everything then changes.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, look, Jackie, it's been lovely to meet you.
Oh, you too. And I look forward
to get a flash of your spirit. Go on. No, we took at least 30 minutes. That was taking it slow, yeah?
Yeah.
And I will put on my blog post a link to your website so that people can find out more information. And I'll certainly drop you a note after this weekend to let you know how it's gone, and also whether I got a big booming male voice. Yeah. Although I definitely think this one's a girl, the one I'm leaning against. Yeah.
I've got a feeling Ash probably does have quite a booming voice, but you might feel the boom through your body rather than hearing it in your ears.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, Barry White. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jackie. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye.